Lynette with Charm Grammy Crochet. How are you doing today? I want to thank you all for coming in and joining me here in the camper. This past week, Roy and I went on a little trip to a little town called Zoar Village. It's a Zoar historic village. It is in Zoar, Ohio, which is, you know, I'm in Hartville. It's a little south of Hartville. I don't know, just Google it. Google historic Zoar Village. They have a website. There it is, right there. Now this is just the cutest little town. And this video is only a travel vlog video. There will be no crochet. But we went on the road trip and I wanted to share. And I just fell in love with Zoar. It's such a quaint little city. I'm going to show you this map that we got from, you can go on guided tours of Zoar. And it starts at the Zoar store, which is here. And then there's, like, the village is pretty much this. Certain buildings are open, certain buildings have guided tours with wonderful tour guides. You're going to meet Craig in You're going to meet Craig in this video. Craig's wife's grandfather, or great-grandfather, I'm sorry, I don't remember which, was a resident there in Zoar, when it became Zoar. Well, he grew up there at some point anyway. So he had a you know, family history there. The thing that I liked about Zoar is it's an old town, and you're gonna get a lot of the history of Zoar. It's an old town with a lot of old town charm. I personally love antique buildings, very old, and to see how the people lived. And Zoar started in like the 1830s, maybe even 1817. It probably tells me in the beginning of this, we got this little catalog magazine, because I don't remember the dates now, but early 1800s, and the buildings still stand. A lot of the buildings still stand. The community has kept them up, and then starting in like the 60s is when the historical societies started like helping to take over, and Zoar has its own historical place that I'm trying to see if I have the name of that, but then I don't have it handy. But you know, the community, it has a association that takes care of a lot of the buildings and the museums and all that, and keeps that relevant. But like the people that live there today, they still have, you know, this was building whatever, and the cobbler and the tin people lived in this building, and now it's a private home. But they still have that information, and they keep the homes as authentic as they can, you know, looking, and so it really maintains that old town charm, which I totally love. And one of the reasons probably that the community, is still thrives is because they kept their garden. So this is the Zoar Garden, and I'm gonna put in a picture of like a 3D, like an architectural, you'll see it. The picture will be here anyway, and it shows the garden. Now the Garden of Zoar has a tree in the middle, a big spruce tree that represents God, and then there's 12 pathways. If you can see how it's divided up, and the top of each one of these is another smaller tree that represents a pine tree that represents the 12 apostles and the 12 straight lines going. If you stay on the straight and narrow path, you always end up at God. And then the square around that, that's where you walk around, that's the world. So if you go on the straight and narrow path to the pine tree, you're on the right path to God. The people that started the village of Zoar left Germany for religious reasons. They wanted to come and do their own religious thing. And they had a really rough time going. They bought this patch of land, I think for $16,000. This patch of land. And the first couple of years were real hard on them. So they became a communal society, a cashless society. And they had a set way of life. If you you knew how to bake, so you were the bakery people, and your family lived in the bakery, and you did all the baking for the whole community. If you were a merchant, then you worked in a store and you owned the store, but the community owns the store, so all the profits went to the community. Farming, if you were a farmhand, you put in your work, and for your work you got goods made from the farm, from the store, from the bakery, and all your houses had numbers, and which you'll hear about. But when it was time to dole out goods and services, they did it by house number. So a lot of the houses will still have the house number somewhere on the property, which I thought was really kind of cool. Then I think that's pretty much what you need to know. So I will have some pictures. I will try to do some talking over. Craig, our tour guide, does tell us all about house number 1, which the Beimlers, it is Beimlers, Bimeler. They started the community. And house number, so everything was like done on a socialized, share, everyone's the same, everyone does everything the same. But there were 4 or 5 people that were like in charge of running everything, and they eventually got to live in house number 1. But house number 1 is huge, and it was designed to be an old folks home. Way back in the early 1800s, I didn't even know they had old folks homes then, but that's what it was designed to be. And the old folks said, no, we're not doing that. After they were there for a couple of months, they said, nah. So then they needed to do something with this wonderful, beautiful brick building, lovely architecture, coolest ideas of how things were done. That's, I think, what it appeals to me, is to learn how they did things. So they had kitchens were all separate from the houses. So when you look at the properties in the neighborhood, and we did drive around, my phone died at one point, and so I did get some pictures on Roy's phone, but not too many. But most of the buildings, if this was an original house, there's outbuildings, because at one point the kitchen was outside. All the cooking was done there, mostly because of fires. If you were going to have a fire in your kitchen, you didn't want it to burn down your whole house, and smells. And you ate in the kitchen, so that's all done out in the outbuilding. And then the potties were out there, so that's another outbuilding that you had. Inside, they mostly did not have fireplaces. They had all wood burning stoves. So there were holes, the walls were thick. And if you imagine a log cabin, you've got these big pieces of wood, and then all that mud and whatever in between. So the walls are thick, and they had the stove by the wall, and they would feed the wood from the outside. So they had a hole. Even in the bigger buildings, they would feed the wood from outside the room. So there's a niche in the wall, and on opposite side of that niche in the actual room is where the stove would have been. So that was really interesting. I'm like, we walked around and I'm like, there's no fireplaces in here. How can these buildings don't have fireplaces? How can that possibly be? Well, that's how it can be. So now I've rambled on for 10 minutes and I haven't shown you anything. But this is just going to be the start. You can watch if you want to watch. I think it was a really cool place. Just the history and how things were done was so awesome to hear about. So I have probably 10 minutes of Craig telling us about house number 1 and the kitchen and the privy and the magazine, which is where they would go to get some of their household goods for the community. The community had a hotel, a store, a bakery, a brewery. They made bricks and farming, so cheese and milk, cream that they would not only supply everyone in the community for, but then they sold to outsiders and traded for other things, and made it a very successful little community. And everybody did their did their job. They the kids started school at 3 years old, and they moved out of their parents' house at 3 years old. Between the ages of 3 and 14, they lived in dormitories, boys' dormitory, girls' dormitory. The parents got to visit, or they got to have time with their kids on Sundays and one Saturday a month during the ages of 3 to 14. I thought that was quite a unique thing. I don't know that I would like that as a parent, but that's because that way they weren't taking people from the workforce, which they needed the people to work because they had this big debt to pay off. Then they did some work on the canal. They drove, there's a canal river here, and they dug, and they hired themselves out as a community to dig this 7 miles, and they made a lot of money, and they paid off their debt on their property, on their, for the town, which then put them in a really good situation. So, and eventually, sadly, the town became no longer cashless. But can you just imagine just trading for everything and there's no currency whatsoever? But it worked for them, and like I said, the town is it's adorable. It's just really adorable. It's just a real adorable town. I hope you find it as cute as what I did. I hope I did decent enough pictures for you. But I'm going to start with pictures at the store, I think, and we're kind of going to work our way down the map, and I'll do my best to narrate and include video. So cross your fingers. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye. So as you can see, this is the Zoar store. These are the representations of things that you can buy in the store. Things that they might have sold to tourists at the time that the store was, an actual community store. The post office was part of this store, and if you made a good broom back in the day, it stood up by itself. This is the hotel, the back of the hotel. That hotel is sadly not functioning today. Look at the doorknob. Isn't that just cool? And these are just some houses before we get to the next place that we're going to go into, which is the town hall, which is a museum. And so it houses just stuff. That's the town hall right there. Used to be a barber shop in there at one time, and the the fire department with the horses, and the horses lived underneath and around back. And these are just some of the artifacts that are inside the museum right now. Those are, hold back your curtains. That is house number 1. We're going to go into, and you will see some video, and you'll meet Craig, our wonderful host. This is inside
and tour guide. House number 1 in Zoar. The 4 families lived here. And this house was built in 1830, I think he said. This building. And all these things are things from that time period. This was a German community. Look at this old vault. In this community, I love the doorways. They were separatists, and they started this community as a communal community, cashless society, was the city of Zoar. And one family lived from the central there down to here. This building was originally built to be a nursing home, and the old folks said no way. So the town elders, pretty much, 4 communities lived in here, in this building. And so they call it house number 1. Look at that sewing machine. And they had agriculture, industry. They made clay, roofs, clay pots, tin, blacksmith, millwrights, cattle, sheep. They had it all. Let's go down to the other end of the hall. Look at the staircase. And on up, oh, look at that in the ceiling. The Zoar star. Look at that. And I'm going to put this on here and get it all in there, and you can pause and read if you so desire. Our tour guide, say hi.
That's a good way to keep track of what you're seeing and experiencing.
That's it. Oh, look at the baby buggy. And look, you could put... It used to be really snowy in the winter here. So this is children's furniture and toys. You see the sleigh for the buggy?
What?
We put skis on the buggy. Now the buildings out back would have been the kitchen and the laundry for this house. They didn't put the kitchens in the houses necessarily for fire and because of heat. Grave marker, assembly hall bell. It's an invalid carriage, not a child carriage. Doll. I don't know if you can read that. It says, the society did make special provisions for the comfort of its old men and women. Men who could no longer work in the shops made the willow baskets used in large communities by the society. The old women spun and knitted and plaited straw for hats. Okay, there's another room over here. Here's some tools for making linen. Everything was made in this community for this community. And everyone was equal. Everyone had the same stuff. Look at the, oh, that's pretty cool. It swivels. You're hanging your clothes. I'll show you the map of the city in the center in a second. And this is a bird cage. It's dark, I'm sorry. Let me get further back. There's not really lighting in here, but it's very intricate. Let me go maybe to the side. We'll get better light maybe. Look at that. And it says it's a bird cage. Again, you can read. Isn't that awesome? Dang, babe. Then this is a map of the city, showing all the different parts of it and homes and areas. And then we will be seeing, this is the garden. We will be seeing that physically. That's still here. Let's go upstairs. Here is the star again. Okay. I'm up higher. Not quite to the second floor, but get dizzy up there. Looking straight up on the stairs. This section is closed. There is a whole nother level. So then from this hallway, let's see what's in here. Oh, probably not supposed to look in there. Then there would have been two other families. I don't know if they share this main room, but it looks, there's a balcony out there. Look at this. Ooh. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at the detail on the pipes.
Wow.
And here's what it says about there. Built by hand. Wow. What do you say, my picture? Look at the bench back here with the cloth seats. Isn't that awesome? Got some kind of gun in the case and a tuba and another piano type thing. There is a porch out here. It's not open, but look, I don't know if you can tell, but the glass is wavy. It's old glass. That's even wavy. The window's all open for a big, good breeze, I imagine. We'll have to find out what's upstairs. That don't go up there. Start on this side. Here's a bedroom. Boy, the child must have slept in there for many years, because that cradle's very long. Or they put two kids in there or something. Skinny, but very long. Dishes and socks. That is what I don't see. There's no fireplaces in these rooms. How can that be? How did they heat this house back then? These are big rooms, and this is it's a brick house, but it's big. Children's beds with removable railings. Oh, here's dresses. A potty chair. There's a lot of people in one room. And another fold-up closing potty chair. No, not closing potty chair. Very interesting. Just love these fat, big doorways. Now the other side of the building. We'll head down here. Well, you can't go any further into this room, but bedroom. Oh, they got yarn in that basket in the corner.
There's a wheel. You sit down
Spinning wheel?
and,
Okay, I'll get there in a second. There's the living room parlor setup. Writing desk. I love that couch. Like the parasol and the old pictures. You zoom in with the beveled glass covering them. And you can go from this room into that room. It's like the ensuite. Another children's room. And a spinning wheel. And there's one more room, I do believe. Down after this long bench. There's a long bench. Let me back up a little further. There we go.
what's the holes in the walls for? Oh, that's a shelf down the long way through.
There's a sign about the niches downstairs. I'm gonna have to read it. Oh, this room had paper on it at one time. Look at the wooden ceilings.
Like there's net in the ceiling.
Well, I'm sure they've added that now. But originally, so Roy says this goes all the way through. Let's look. It sure does. Most of them don't. Or the other ones that I've seen.
Door.
Oh yeah, they took the door off.
It's gonna hinge it out, things.
Hmm?
Mm.
Oh, maybe it never had a door. No, the door's right there.
Just decoration on the outside, huh?
Yeah, they all have it, see?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go find out about the mysterious third floor and the niches in the door, in the walls. We are now on our way out to the magazine and the kitchen, and Greg will talk to us as soon as we get there.
This door
This is
would
the
have been
dining
where the
room.
boys could open it and stoke it up.
Cool.
This one is made for, this is a warming chamber here for bread or lunch.
Oh, okay.
Something you want to keep warm.
Wow, that's awesome.
This is the original dining house kitchen for the house number 1 that we just went through. And the niches in that house, they had a stove to reheat the rooms, and they would fill it from the other side of the wall right here to heat it. And then this is the actual kitchen.
Even though the building is original, this had to be totally reconstructed because it was gone when they came in and restored this.
Oh,
So
man.
this firebox and the fireplace
Oh, no.
are all, so you build a fire in there and that's what's gonna heat your oven, your cooktop. This is what I call the early crock pot.
Oh, look at that. Holy moly. And this thing is,
Well, you had food to do that.
wow.
It's just cast iron.
This is stone.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And they had a dry sink here, obviously. And then back here now, and you don't need to come down here, I can be down here, and you can actually film me if you want from up here.
This is so cool. All their spices.
See,
Okay.
this is the this is a laundry. So this is a public laundry,
You wanna go down?
all right? So you've got, over here, you've got the 2 tubs. So this tub right here would have been a wash tub, and this has no drain. So there's no drain in here. So they bring in water, bucket by bucket, to fill it up, heat it up in the morning. Then that's a rinse tub. So a wash tub and a rinse tub. Okay. Eventually, then they would have you see this ringer, and you saw the lady in the video.
Yeah.
Well, this came later on. When they first came here in 1819, they didn't have ringers yet, but that came later on. And this, the reason this has open on this, there's no wall here, is because this is your drying room. Okay? So this is open year round, and it would be, even in the winter, it'd be to dry. So in the winter, the young people that worked in here would want to be over here near the firebox, this is where it's warmer, as opposed to over here. In the summer, they prefer to be over here because that's
So
really
hot,
warm
yeah.
over there.
But they could lower this to help keep them warmer in the winter. And
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether they would have had, this is canvas, they might have just had some kind of heavy blankets or something that they would have put on that, but it would have been, whatever the weather is outside, that's what it's gonna be in here, so.
wow.
This was, and there were a number of public laundries around the village.
They would have had to been, like, I wouldn't have been able to reach the bottom of those things.
Well, you know, when you visit a place like this, you can.
This is the magazine.
Because most of the time you hear a magazine where they're saying about that's gunpowder and guns and things like that. If you go down to Williamsburg, their magazine was for military use.
Oh,
Here it's for storage to give, it's a storage building and distribution point. So if you got the canal, the goods would come in these big burlap bags, and then if I'm the supervisor here, my job is to break down what's in these big bags into smaller bags for each home. Here you'll see the house number, 18, 19, 20.
Oh, cool.
So the house, it might be, here's number 17. So maybe they've got 12 or 15 people living there, so they get more than people who have fewer people.
Okay.
But the idea is they're contributing more to the workforce. Okay, so what are the things that I'm gonna get in here? Things that they can't grow. They can't grow rice. Okay, they have to get their rice. They had to get their coffee, their tea, all of those things they had to buy outside, brought in bulk, break them down, and then they get, like, you know, that's and usually it would have been a young person bringing a basket like this, coming in once a week and getting their share. This would have been sugar. It would have been like the brown sugar, natural sugar. And then what they do is it comes in cones. They would break it off, grind it up, and use it. Upstairs here, what was up here was they raised pigeons. And they raised pigeons for food, so it was a pigeon roost.
For
So
food.
it would have looked like that picture right there.
Oh, nice.
And we can't go up there because some of the floor is missing. It's not safe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yep, I didn't miss the yarn.
Yep.
Show yarn for my YouTubers.
Now my wife, you know, I mentioned
Look at the
Oh,
detail.
good bucket. Oh,
she came from, her family were always in the sheep business here. They were always a sheep herding family. And today, my wife, what does my wife do? She refurbishes antique spinning wheels and spins wool.
Does she really?
We never got out of the wool business.
That's funny.
Now, next you'll see the Art Museum house, and then Craig will be telling us about the greenhouse in the garden. Garden
They
house?
also had a fire room, a furnace room on this end of that, and they actually ran tile from that furnace room, so they had a fire going in there 24/7 during the winter, and then they ran tile from there under the floor, and with there's about 16 openings into that room, so wealthy people in Cleveland, Akron, maybe Pittsburgh could actually raise citrus. And they'd have a great big barrels, they'd have citrus trees. They would put it on the canal boat in the fall, send it down here. The Zoarites would unload it, put it in there, keep it for them all winter, put it back on the canal boat in early summer or late spring, send it back to them. And they charged, that was a business. So the
Really?
separatists made a business of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty cool.
All right, so what we're gonna do, you're gonna go down there where the lady's sitting. That's the Beimler Museum.
Okay.
All right, and she's got the paintings in there, and she'll talk to you about that. Then you can actually walk through this garden if you wish, and walk right through. And there's a gate behind the garden house to get out. So you go in here, you get out there, and right behind that is that cabin I was telling you about, the
Oh,
1817
okay.
cabin.
Awesome.
Okay?
So my phone died and now I'm recording off Roy's and he's gonna send this to me. So we're gonna do short videos and pictures. But this is the garden of Zoar. That, remember the star? It's a representation of this garden, or vice versa. Probably more, the garden is a representation of that star that was on the ceiling. And that tree is the representation of God. And all the lanes of the star, which is the garden, end up pointing to God. So if you stay on the straight and narrow, end up at God. Next are just some pictures that we took. The greenhouse, the bakery. My phone was dead at the time. That's inside the greenhouse, that picture right there. Then this is more of the gardens. And you just saw the bakery that is still functioning today on special occasions. They still do work up the bakery. I don't know. I did not get any pictures inside the bakery.
Here's the bakery.
Sadly.
We'll be in there soon.
And then there's just going to be houses throughout the neighborhood that we saw that mostly are original to the neighborhood, to the community of Zoar. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the video. This talks about the niche wall, these last two pictures. And I will see you guys in the next video. Enjoy the rest of the pictures.